Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back, and let's just dig into it. This is the boxing news with the IBFP, and so we just got to break down current events of different boxing topics and news from around the globe. And so the first thing we're going to start off with is Canelo Alvarez and Danny Jacobs' 30-day weigh-in. You know, we touched on this a little bit on our live stream and our live podcast, but we really want to just kind of dig into it a little bit more. Canelo Alvarez weighed at 168.2 pounds at the 30-day weigh-in, ahead of his fight with, Danny Jacobs on May 4th. Danny Jacobs was about 7.2 pounds heavier, coming in at 175.4 pounds. So initially when I thought about this and I looked at this, I thought, why is Danny Jacobs so much heavier than Canelo? Now, we understand that Danny Jacobs is a bigger man, has a naturally bigger mass, but this makes more sense. If this isn't waterweight, then this could be an issue for Danny Jacobs because, with the rehydration clause that's in place with Canelo and Jacobs, a lot of people were complaining that Canelo was looking for some unfair disadvantage. But in reality, Danny Jacobs has had this weight clause in his contract for the last fight because he has the IBF belt. So that's pretty much a weight clause that he's going to always have to adhere to when he's fighting for the IBF belt. But just because this is a unification fight, the weight clause really doesn't apply. Canelo insisted that the weight clause be a part of the contractual negotiations. Now, be honest and unbiased, this isn't unfair for Danny Jacobs because at the end of the day, he had this in his last fight. And so if this wasn't a unification fight, if this was just a regular defense, he'd have it in his next fight. So at the end of the day, there's nothing different about him fighting Canelo this way when he fights other opponents this way. But at the same time, it is a slight edge for Canelo, when you look at the fact that it is a unification fight and also the fact that he didn't have to have the clause. So I give that for Canelo, but Canelo's deserving of it because he is the A side. And if you don't want clauses like this put in your contract, if you want to be able to do what you want and how you want and rehydrate the way you want, then you have to become the A side. And becoming the A side means you have to make these type of sacrifices. You have to make the sacrifice and then beat a guy like Canelo. Then you can call those shots. Then you can dictate what comes in the contract. Then you can dictate who's the top dog, where you fight, and how you fight. That's how you become the A side. That's how you become the man that everyone looks at and say, okay, I understand what's going on now. But let's just keep going. Magi Sulecki says he'll be ready for the Demetrius Andrade fight in June. Sulecki has had a hand injury, and because of that hand injury, they don't know if he'll be ready for that fight. So let's just kind of go down the list of other opponents that he could end up fighting if Sulecki isn't ready. Eddie Hearn, he's already told Eddie Hearn that he'll be ready for the fight in June. He doesn't want to give up this title shot. He believes he can beat Demetrius Andrade. I think that'll be a very good fight. He gave Danny Jacobs a very tough fight. I think Demetrius Andrade will be a different beast because Demetrius Andrade utilizes lateral movement a lot more than Danny Jacobs. He's not going to really sit in the pocket as much, and Demetrius Andrade has very strong hands. But if he, for whatever reason, Sulecki isn't ready, like he says, then he has a couple of opponents that could step in. He could face Liam Williams, David Lemieux. We know David Lemieux has already been beaten by Billy Joe Saunders, by Triple G, and knocked out by Triple G and just outclassed by Billy Joe Saunders. But David Lemieux has very good pop in his hands. He could face a Jack Colclay. He's already beaten him. He could face Alontes Fox. He's already beaten him as well. He could end up facing an interesting name here, Jeff Horn. Now we know that Jeff Horn is it can come all the way up from 154 to middleweight to 160. Jeff Horn looks like he's just looking for huge paydays at this point. So that would be an interesting fight if he ended up fighting Jeff Horn. But most likely, I truly believe that Sulecki will be ready. I don't think Sulecki is going to give up this opportunity to fight for a world title. And, in June is just enough time to get your hand right. As long as it's not a severe hand injury, I don't see any problem with that happening at that point. In other news, Josh Taylor versus Ivan Branchek looks like it'll happen on May 18th in the World Boxing Super Series in Glasgow, Scotland. I think that'll be a fantastic fight. These are the type of fights that we want to see, and this fight is getting no hype, no buzz in the States. And at the end of the day, this is going to be one of those fights that make Josh Taylor a superstar. I truly believe that Josh Taylor is a special talent. I truly believe that Josh Taylor is going to be a guy they could challenge the likes of a Mikey Garcia if he comes to 140 pounds. I think that Josh Taylor is one of those special fighters, and you need guys like that. You have Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis. You have these guys look like they're head of their class in the 140-pound division, and we just need these type of fights to solidify that status. But let's keep going. Joseph Parker is chasing the next best deal for his career. Now, Joseph Parker looks like here he's in negotiations with, ESPN Top Rank, DAZN, and even Showtime and PBC and Fox. So he's looking for the best deal with whoever can give him the best deal. And he would respect Eddie Hearn and DAZN, is what he's already stated, because he knows that they've already worked with Top Rank. So he's looking for the biggest and best contract because he knows he's a potential opponent for anybody on either side. He's a great opponent for Dillian White again. He's a great opponent for Anthony Joshua again. He's a great opponent, for Tyson Fury or even Deontay Wilder. So he's a great opponent. He's a top 10 level fighter. He was a previous former world champion. He only has 2 losses to Dillian White and to Anthony Joshua. So I think that those are both good, opponents for Joseph Parker. He's the first fighter that went the distance with Anthony Joshua. And, he got dropped in a Dillian White fight, but he almost had Dillian White out by knockout. Almost. But he held on. And, Joseph Parker's a sturdy, tough test for any fighter. So he's going to be a problem going forward for anyone. So I think Joseph Parker, he should sign with DAZN. Or even if he signed with ESPN, I would love to see Joseph Parker versus, Tyson Fury. I think that would be a fantastic fight. Because at the end of the day, either way, that's going to be a fantastic fight. That's going to be a great chance to him to display his skills and get back to the top. But once again, Unbiased, as always, is the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.